Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Walk on Wednesday. And before we get into our Walk on Wednesday guest, we are going to make some announcements. Kaustubha, good morning to you.
Good morning, Raghunath.
How are you?
I'm okay.
How's everything?
Very good.
I taught in Yoga Mandalay. This place is a great place in Saratoga Springs. If you're ever up north
I've been
here
there before. Long time ago.
Kristen does that, and Kristen runs the Ahimsa Festival up here too, which I sadly can't be at this year. But great place, great people. Thanks for everybody showing up. Mara, any announcements?
Yep, we have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings today at 1 and 9:30 p.m. And this evening, Lisa Bermudez is offering another one of her essential oils class. It's going to be essential oils for women's health and hormones at 6:30 for Patreon members.
Essential oils for women's health and hormones. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, without any further ado, we want to welcome our Walk on Wednesday guest, Abhideya Devidasi. Welcome to the show, Abhideya.
Welcome.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
She's a mysterious other from Oz, from Sydney, Australia. And she runs this great podcast for raising kids in Krishna consciousness called the Bhakti Kids Sangha. And what made you, Abhideya, and thank you for being an other out there. These others, these are people who we don't see every day live. Like all these people, I see their faces every day. We get about 100 people on here live. But there's these others out there that listen to the podcast. We don't know we're there. And so it's great to see you. And it was great to meet you. And I'm glad we get to talk about what you're doing and help promote it. So tell us what your goals are with the podcast, or perhaps even how it was born.
Yeah, so I'll start a little bit about how it came to be. And it was kind of a little bit of an organic flow and progression. So it began during the COVID lockdown. So in Australia, we actually had 2 lockdowns here. And so all the children had to do online learning. Now, it's pretty unnatural for us to be sitting at a computer all day, especially a small 10-year-old boy. And so we saw it as a really nice opportunity to kind of dive into our spiritual education. We're at home, really delve into Sastra and Sanskrit. And so I was kind of doing quite a comprehensive little program at home. And I noticed that my son was really struggling with mental health, physical health. And so I'm a yoga teacher. So I decided to start live streaming yoga classes for children and parents. It was completely free. It started off as just a little Instagram account where we were live streaming yoga classes. And then a couple of devotees from my community said to me, some of the work that you're doing at home with your kids is really nice. Why don't you share it as well so that other parents can kind of borrow ideas if they want to, or not, as the case may be, whatever they want to do with it. And so I started posting what we were doing and sharing, and it kind of grew from there. And then I'm a big fan of podcasts. I've listened to this podcast since it started, and I've been following it and listening to it every day. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I felt inspired to start my own podcast because I'd kind of been bleating on a little bit about how there weren't many female podcasters out there running devotee podcasts. And I thought, why don't I channel that energy instead of complaining, be the change that I want to see in the world, as Raghunath Swami would say, and actually use that energy to create my own podcast. And I'm just so lucky that when I started it, so many amazing devotees agreed to come on, and it was like completely grassroots. It was just me in my living room like this. And so many really amazing devotees agreed to come on. So, I've had Urmila Devi Dasi, Radhakesh Das from Alachua talking about birth charts and astrology. So every topic is tailored to the Grihastha ashram. So sometimes we talk about Krishna conscious play work. Sometimes we talk about why is doing a birth chart important? What did Prabhupada say about doing a birth chart for your children? Sanskrit, how do we teach our children Sanskrit and why is it important? And so I bring on experts to talk about their expertise and all these different topics. And it really has been very educational for me as well to do.
That sounds great. What are the benefits of Sanskrit? I'm just curious now that you got that.
So I really believe, and this might be a little bit of a controversial opinion, but I actually believe a little bit, even basic knowledge in Sanskrit really helps us to get an extra layer in the text. You really get too. Yeah, even just, in ISKCON, we do lots of beautiful shloka recitation. But if you don't understand the difference between short vowels and long vowels, if you don't understand the difference between alpha prana and maha prana, you're not going to pronounce the words properly. So there's aspirations in Sanskrit where we discharge a puff of air with certain syllables. If we miss those, then we're not pronouncing the verse maybe as accurately as we could. And so that's why I think, and Prabhupada did say that children especially should be taught Sanskrit, devotee children. So
okay, I dropped the ball on that. One.
It's never too late. I'm learning and I'm 36, so it's never, ever too late. But I really sort of took the bull by the horns. I found a Sanskrit teacher in Sydney to teach my son, who's also teaching me now. And I've interviewed her on the podcast as well.
Abhidaya. I'm inspired. I'm going to get serious this year about Sanskrit. I'm serious.
I'm really passionate about Sanskrit. I also agree
that it adds another layer.
It does.
You know what? The best time to plant a fruit tree, 10 years ago. The second best time, today. So, Mara, put that on our list. Children
are like sponges. They actually absorb it so much more easily and quicker than we do. Yeah. And my son's just picking it up, through the guidance of a teacher. And so we've had these discussions on the podcast. Why is it relevant? Why is it something parents should consider? What are good Krishna conscious books for your bookshelf at home for your children? I know these things sound small, but they're actually really, really important because those first 6 years of a child's life, they're building up their samskaras from this life and impressions. And if we make really positive impressions about Krishna conscious being fun, that there's something they can engage with through play, I think that can be invaluable later on.
I'm totally in. By the way, we have David Murray on our Zoom, and his mom was responsible for these wonderful books, Kim Murray, wonderful books on Krishna consciousness, the Gita, what's it called?
Illuminations.
Illustrated Gita.
Illuminations, I think.
Illuminations on the Bhagavad Gita, yeah. And Gopal, I think she did Gopal as well. Anyway, I don't have the list of that, but there are some good kids Krishna books, and there's a few clunkers out there.
There is.
There's definitely a few clunkers. I've got a bunch because when I was a new parent, I just bought everything.
Yep.
And I was like, this one's not going to work.
So that's why Bhakti Kid Sangha is there, because I review the books and I highlight what are the quality ones and maybe are the ones that. So just because we're all on a tight budget, right, post COVID, so we want to know where to spend our money.
I'm living large over here.
Well, I can tell you, I certainly am.
All the money Bhakti Kid Sangha podcast is bringing in. Come on. All right. Here's the big question. Here's the $1 million question. Okay, the 1,000,000 rupee question.
Hit me with it.
What do you do if you didn't raise your kids in Krishna consciousness? You yourself sort of just got into it. How do you get the kids who weren't raised into it, never had that container, and already compromised by the material world, by screens, by video games, etc.? Do you have any good advice for? Because a lot of our people are just getting into this right now, and therefore they're like, "What do I do with my kids?"
So actually, I was not raised in a Krishna conscious environment either. And actually, my son was about 4 or 5 when I became a full-time devotee. So I have experience in that. And actually, I really believe it's never too late to start and to find ways that are age appropriate. So if the child, they might have outgrown playing with dolls and things and figures, but there's other ways that you can tie in and relate Krishna consciousness to them. And that's what Bhakti Kids Sangha is. We're exploring all of those things. So I actually had a few young people come on as guests to talk about their experience, because it's very easy for us as adults to sort of sit here and talk about children's experience in Krishna consciousness, but actually have we asked them? So I've brought them on to talk as well. But I really believe it's, if you're new to Krishna consciousness and you want to start introducing it to your children, it's never too late to do. And you absolutely should try and start.
You know what? It strangely is a very fun spiritual path. Usually
really
think of a
is.
Spiritual path, you think of a lot of solemnness, a lot of quietude, a lot of kneeling down. It's actually, like, for kids, it's super fun. And my son, he's at a really crucial time of his life. He's 15 years old and trying to find himself. We don't have like a big Krishna community here, but he got on the boys bus tour that they do this year. He's going. And it's like,
that's a winner.
It's such a winner. You meet a bunch of other kids that are into bhakti. They have similar values. It's still fun. You're still hanging out with teenagers, doing teenager things, and you're hearing from other people that aren't your parents, which is, I think, a big thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Peers are so important. And, that's why it's called the Bhakti Kids Sangha podcast, because it's all about Bhakti Kids Sangha, the Sangha of Bhakti children and their parents.
I really, just because you mentioned, I really want to ask this last thing. What did Prabhupada say about the birth charts of children, and what do you think about that?
So he said that whilst devotees shouldn't necessarily rely on astrology, that when a child is born, a birth chart should be done, and it's quoted and recorded. A birth chart should be done. So it was recommended by Prabhupada, and we've done birth charts for our children. And you can go and find devotee astrologers. So Radhakesh Das in Alachua.
We love him. We love him.
So he's been on my podcast talking about birth charts. There's no one more sort of bona fide than that from our Sampradaya.
No. And you sort of just encourage people towards, this kid's going to be good at music. Here's a violin or something like that. Is that what
so he can sort of look at maybe some inclinations. So one of the interesting things he told me about my son is he's going to use his mind and his hands simultaneously. He's very bright, but he could be doing something with engineering, possibly be a doctor. But then he also mentioned that once he gets a bit older, he's got a big shift towards renunciation. And my husband said, he's going to take sannyas as a joke. And Radhakesh said, actually, that's the kind of renunciation I'm seeing in his birth chart. Yeah.
So you're ready for it now.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm prepared. He's going to leave one day, just like all children do. They're just gifts from Krishna, and we're just their caretakers. We just steward them through this life as best we can.
Love
ultimately,
their
relationship with Krishna is kind of going to be between them and Krishna, but we can be stewards. We can direct, because the outside world has so much noise and so many influences.
Yeah, Abhidaya, you are incredibly well spoken. And as elegant as she looks, everybody who's watching on Zoom, she's actually hardcore. From the neck down, she's covered with tattoos from the London hardcore scene, even though she lives in Sydney, Australia.
I stand out in the temple. Let's put it that way. I get some looks.
Okay. Well, maybe you can help Mara. She's struggling over tattoo designs right now.
What's
looking for my first tattoo.
Looking for her first back piece. She doesn't know what to do. Abhidaya, thank you very much. And the best way to reach you is YouTube search Bhakti Kids Sangha. What's the best way to find your podcast?
We've got 3 platforms. We've got Instagram, and that's at Bhakti_Kids_Sangha, and that's SANGHA. And then it's Facebook /Bhakti Kids Sangha, one word, and YouTube /Bhakti Kids Sangha, one word. And Sangha is SANGHA.
Like Sangha.
Yes, because it's Mahaprana Ga. Yes, in Sanskrit.
I like that. Man,
a lot of people misspell it as SANGA, which actually means something different in Sanskrit. It doesn't actually mean Sangha. It means union. It's something different. It's actually, yeah. Sorry, I'm such a Sanskrit buff.
No,
I can't help
love
myself.
Sanskrit nerds. I was saying Guru Puj for a while, and then someone told me instead of puja, and someone told me puj means pus. I was like, oh, great.
So that happens a lot in Sanskrit. So palam is fruit, but palam is meat. So you can imagine how those two words mispronounced. You got to be very careful. One is fruit and one is meat.
Another word nerd. Another word nerd aboard the train. Okay, so listen, let's bump her numbers up right now, everybody. Go to Bhakti Kids Sung on Facebook, on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, like it, hit the bell icon and comment, and also let's get these kids off their screens and into some Sanskrit birth charts and mystical mantras. What do you say? Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a mysterious other out there, Abhidheya.
Thank you,
We
Abhidheya.
give you full support.
Thank you. Dhanyavadaha.
We're at, see, I've been saying
Dhanyavadaha.
Oh, sorry. It's thank you.
Say that again. We know what it means. We've just been saying it wrong. Say that one more time.
Oh, so Dhanyavadaha. Because there's a visarga on the end for Sanskrit. In Hindi, they just say Dhanyavad, which is a shortened version.
The Hindi way.
I do it.
Dhanyavads, baby. That's it.
I just say later. Thank you, Prabhu. Dhanyavadaha. Gee. Hi, well, thank you, Abhidheya. Now, listen, I know it's Australia. You might have to go. That's okay. We're not offended. But if you want to stay, you're welcome to. We have a beautiful temple in the background. We're taking darshan.
Yeah, this is Radha Golokananda.
Thank you. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting our Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhakti ravati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Mara?
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 20, starting at text 12. I think Kaustubha, we just lost his mic for a sec.
Yeah, it was making weird mic sounds.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Somehow just my mic just shut itself off.
I was going to call that a Krishna miracle, but in a negative way. Sometimes miracles are negative.
I don't know if it's going to come back. I don't know why it switched off. I didn't even touch it, but I'll see if I can fix it as we go.
Okay, maybe this is a sign from Krishna. He wants me to take over.
Take it over, Robert.
Well, did you want to go back and do the previous verse, Prabhu? Text 11?
No. Oh, hey, I think my mic's back.
He's back. Yeah. He's back.
How's that?
All right.
Good. I don't know.
All right, text 12.
Text 12. What's going to happen in here? What's going on?
Bhakti Kids Yoga Sangha. Bhakti Kids.
You just felt like saying that?
Yeah, I like to say that word, that phrase.
Bhakti Kids Sangha.
Yoga Sangha. Oh, Bhakti Kids Sangha, not Yoga Sangha.
Yeah.
And I'm probably pronouncing Sangha wrong. Sangha! Abhidheya is looking at me. He's got it all wrong.
He's wrong.
Okay. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, my dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the three gunas, the five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul. All these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee, who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress. All right, this is what we're reaching for, isn't it? This is the gold standard. This is where we're trying to jump to. It's the pure soul theology, Kaustubha. We are pure, and out of some type of affection for materialism, we're all a little affected. We have an affection, we have an attraction towards materialism. It throws us right into the tumbler, the washing machine, tumbling around these three gunas of material nature. And while I'm there, right, imagine if we were to throw Kaustubha in a washing machine or one of those giant ones at a laundromat, just banging around in the material world, getting a sock on his head, something wrapped, a pants leg wrapped around his neck. It's horrible. That's the material world. And so the guru comes in, his guru came in, just pulled him right out of there. Now he's free. He's in his own identity again, his spiritual identity. Now he's lifting us out. Now he's opening and saying, Raghunath, you come out. And I'm saying, no, I love getting banged around here. I want to stay in the material. I want to get banged around. I want the socks and underwear all over me. Kaustubha's begging, please, Raghunath, get out of there. It's horrible in there. And out of illusion, I'm thinking, no, it's quite a nice place. Thank you, Kaustubha.
I'm stuck in the machine myself, but it's nice that this Buddha Sauhrida, right? This bound in friendship. Thinking of, it's not like following due to guilt, right? But it's saying this is in bhakti. The idea is you become bound in friendship. Right? When you have that kind of love, that kind of affection, it affects how you behave, how you think. And so this is saying we can elevate our consciousness. We can overcome our lower nature by shifting our affection, not annihilating our affection, right? And just kind of zoning out into a oneness. But taking the affection that we have for the material world, go ahead and embracing it, saying, hey, that's my nature to love, right? It's my nature to be connected, and so on. But just redirecting that towards the root, towards the source. And then that actually becomes like, you could say that it's what gives us strength in yoga, right? I think yesterday we were reading where Prabhupada was talking about bhakti as being, and he used the word the practical path. And we even looked into the definition of practical, right? Meaning like not just theoretical or something that has like a chance to succeed, right? Like, something that, it's not just theoretical or something that will really work. So this will work for us, just not trying to kill our affection, not just trying to dismantle every desire that we have in our heart, but redirecting it. And so here it's saying you do that through loving friendship. It becomes a powerful way to overcome one's lower nature.
We've got practical examples on Zoom right now. I'm looking at all these faces. They're strangely addicted to Krishna every morning. They get up and they're listening to this. They're falling in love with Krishna, and it's putting the material world in perspective. Getting bounced around that industrial commercial washing machine is not so sweet anymore once you get outside of it. And then you start to appreciate, wow, this new life. And it puts everything in perspective. People have fallen in love with source, with higher power, with sweet baby Krishna. And it develops a healthy addiction. The mind gets addicted to everything, doesn't it? It just gets addicted to something. It could be a TV show that we watch every night, or we binge listen to, or a podcast, or a sport, or a drug, or a
true crime podcast.
True crime podcast, perhaps. It gets addicted to something, and whatever that is, to the degree what guna it is in, it starts to either degrade or upgrade, right? Or, if you're lucky, transcend, right? So we want to get addicted to these things. That's why these cultural arts like Sanskrit and stuff like that, it's educational. And it's not just educational. It's nurturing, it's fulfilling, but it brings up the consciousness a little higher. Sanskrit. I'm going to take that. Remember I started to try to take that course with Nityananda, and I just dropped the ball on it.
Okay, but this is the time now, Raghunath.
This is the time.
Okay.
Mara, you want to do this?
Yeah, I do.
We were talking about it. Me and Mara were like, let's take that course, and we just never did it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. It's online. Sanskrit Sense.
We should always be students. We should always be learning, right?
You know what? I like learning, actually. I like learning. Yeah. My perfect vacation is I go somewhere and learn something. I don't want to sit on a beach.
There you go.
I do for a couple days, but not like for a week. I want to learn something. I sit on the beach. I want to sit on the beach for an hour. Okay. Then I want to learn something the rest of the day. That's an ideal vacation. 2 hours on the beach and then learn the rest of the day.
Okay.
And I want lunch
And
in
maybe
there
some
as well.
good food while you're there.
I want some lunch. That's reasonable.
But it's a fact
Two-
that if we're not learning, it's a basic thing where like everyone should be able to say, what am I learning right now? Like at this point in my life, right? It should always be increasing. What is that that statement, right? I think I don't know if it's just some kind of if the statement's just like a cultural thing handed down, or if there's any Shastric kind of like reference that it's born from. But that idea that one should, do you know what I'm talking about, Raghunath?
No.
That one should study like they're going to live forever.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And one should do sadhana like they're going to die tomorrow.
That's a good one.
Have you heard that before?
No, you like that one, Rachel?
That works though, right?
Yeah.
You do your sadhana, you hear, you chant, you do your ritual. When you do that ritual, don't think, okay, I got to do this today. You think like, this is the last time I do it, like it's the last time you're ever going to do it, right?
You know what? Say that again.
Okay.
Say that whole
the
thing.
original thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
I think they usually say it the other way, or I'm not sure. I think they
Just say
I
it.
think
Just say
you
it.
do
What you said was
sadhana-
great.
You do sadhana like you're going to die tomorrow. You study like you're going to live forever.
Okay.
Like you're 80 years old, you're still like, what do I need to learn? What and if you don't engage your mind like that, it just starts to rot.
It atrophies like your muscles,
Yeah,
right?
it becomes really weak.
All right.
So you got to engage in learning. Learn some Sanskrit, Raghunath. Go for it.
All right.
I mean, not everyone can be, like an Oxford scholar.
Not everybody can be a professor. Some of us have to be the students.
Okay. No, I think it's great.
Text 12.
No,
Text 13.
no.
No.
Is it? Maybe it is. Yeah, 13. Sorry.
You're allowed to correct me because
And it's the first time I was allowed.
gotta be correct. My dear heroic king, please keep yourself always equipoised and treat people equally, whether they are greater than you,
Mhm.
in the intermediate stage,
Mhm.
or lower than you. Do not be disturbed by temporary distress and happiness. Fully control your mind and senses. In this transcendental position, try to execute your duty as a king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement. For your only duty here is to give protection to the citizens of your kingdom.
Okay.
Imagine
Interesting
the
verse.
dharma of the king. It's pretty interesting.
It's such a heavy responsibility,
I
But
know.
here the advice he's giving is like what we've been talking about. I really, Chaitanya Charan, spiritual scientist, the way that he put it, I think is really helpful. We've been speaking about the past few days, but this fundamental identity and this functional identity, right? It seems like this verse is speaking on both levels. It's saying, do your duties as a king, right? That you really got to get, functional when it comes to that, because like everybody's turning to you and saying, hey, there's a problem. It needs to be fixed. So you got to get really functional. You have to begin to identify as like, I'm the king, I'm the protector, I'm the one responsible to make sure things are running smooth. But at the same time, he's instructing them. He's instructing him in this fundamental spiritual knowledge, right? That to not be disturbed by distress and happiness. These things come and go. I'm transcendental to that.
You and I know this nice sannyasi, Sadhu Maharaj from Vrindavan, and he was from a family of kings from Bihar.
It's amazing when that happens, right? There's a lot of stories like that in Vrindavan, like these
Yeah, where
royalty that just
you
walk
meet a
away
king.
from it
You
all.
meet a king,
Yeah.
and I think it was his grandfather was in parliament. Because after they took away the power of the
Indian
king, so
parliament?
they were still sort of like his grandfather was in parliament, I think.
Okay.
And he said before the grandfather went to parliament,
Not
he would
Parliament
chant
Funkadelic,
64 rounds.
right? Not that
No,
part.
not parliament, man. No.
Okay. Really?
Oh, Kaustubha. I know I get the joke now. His grandfather was.
You're kidding me. If you knew Sadhu Maharaj, you would.
Hare Krishna.
No.
Now
No,
every
I'm
time I see
sorry,
Sadhu Maharaj, I'm going to think of.
No, he was in the Indian Parliament.
He was in the Indian Parliament. So yeah, before he'd go into Parliament, he'd chant 64 rounds. So the idea is, even if you have duties of this world, and I was actually reading of some Rajasthani kings as well recently, because I find kings quite fascinating, because they're warriors. They have to study protection and martial arts and weaponry and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And, and so I find their lives interesting, especially because they're all Vaishnavas. So and how do you balance these two? Something which is like, we think of war, we think of weaponry. We don't think of it as spiritual. So anyway, when you study the lives of these kings, there was one king I was just reading about recently. It's like he didn't do anything until 9 o'clock, until after his sadhana was over. He just kept his whole morning quiet, so he can just dive into his spiritual life. So how do we remember our functional self? That's what sadhana is. Sadhana is, here's the time of the day.
Self.
The fundamental self.
Yeah.
Here's the time of, functional and fundamental. Here's the time of the day where I just remember who I really am.
There you go.
Right. And of course, I'm going to spring back to what my duties are of this world. But that's why, like today with me, it's like I woke up late. It's like I just woke up and I'm here in the Bhagavatam. I guess that's pretty good. But I like to have a whole morning ritual I like to remind me of what I am, so I can go into the day in my functional way and be a little bit more light, a little bit more delicate, a little bit less controlled.
Running in the background the whole time, in a sense, right?
Right. Running in the background, tapping me on the shoulder, say, Raghu, don't slip back into your mode of passion and ignorance again.
They're
always pulling at me.
There's the Bhakti-vedanta ashram at Govardhan, which was one of these kings in Jaipur had a instead of having a summer getaway, he had this place at Govardhan Hill, right? The holy place that he would go and visit.
Isn't that cool? That's what a king would do. They wouldn't go to, what's Trump's casino called? Del Mar or Mar Vista? No.
Del Largo something.
Del Largo, whatever it is. They don't
Mar-a-Lago.
They're not going to Mar-a-Lago for vacation. They are going to Govardhan Hill. That's their idea of a vacation. You go to Govardhan Hill and you go there so many times, you build a little palace there for you and your peeps. To go,
simple palace, right?
A simple,
well built,
palace,
but
it's like a sadhu palace.
Yeah,
and it's right at Govardhan Hill. You wake up in the morning, you can have darshan of Govardhan Hill. This was the concept of vacation.
Yeah,
everything. That's what I love about India and Vedic culture is everything, even vacations, are meant to bring you to a higher place. Sometimes vacations can degrade you. Ever go on a degrading vacation, Mara?
Yes.
Let's hear more about it.
Let's hear the details.
Just how degrading did it get?
Mara on spring break, circa 1998.
But in that palace at Govardhan, we call it a palace. I think it'll give people the wrong idea, but it's a very well built. It's got really thick walls and everything, but it's simple. But it has a regal sense to it too, right?
Yeah, there's a regal sense.
It's like a fort.
Simple.
Yeah, and then you go up. Have you ever gone up to that tiny little?
Yeah, been to them. Been to all those. Right. I've explored that place when they bought it or when it was donated. You know how much they bought that for?
I don't remember.
$10,000.
Okay.
$10,000.
But you go up to the top. There's this little. See, because Govardhan Hill, which is to the Bhakti-yogi, that's the hill that Krishna lifted. It's the place of Krishna's pastimes. You go there because you want to. You read the 10th canto about Krishna. And you want to go to that place where it happens so you can feel it and meditate it on more deeply. So he would go there, and there's this little tiny room, right? It's like just you can kind of just sit cross-legged in it, but it's got this little window, and it's a beautiful view of Govardhan Hill, and you can see this is what the king was doing in his spare time. He'd come up here. I need to get away from everyone.
He's got whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And he built himself a little room with a little window to have darshan of Govardhan Hill.
Only one person can fit in that room, right? So when he goes in there, nobody's going to, it's just he's going to be alone. And it's just him and Govardhan Hill, Krishna in his heart. And I need to spend time like this, right? Like you said, you said there's some hours in the day, right? There's some hours in my day that are completely, solely, exclusively dedicated to that fundamental nature. That who am I? I'm not husband, wife, mother, father, business person, these things. I'm none of these things. I'm Krishna's servant. I'm the lover of Krishna. I'm the servant of Krishna. And I need some hours in the day that I'm going to frame off, draw a boundary. Don't disturb me during this time. I'm going to focus now. And even the king is doing that. He's got so much responsibility, right?
Every day I tell my kids every day, I'm not your father. I'm not your father. I'm a pure spirit soul. You leave me alone. Stop asking me for things.
And then you flip it around when you want to tell him what to do. I'm your father.
Listen, I'm your father. You better do what I say. I flip it as it serves my needs. No, it's great. So anyway,
so this verse, it was acting on both things. Do your kingly duties, embrace those. That's going to be real important. Protect your citizens. You've been posted there by my arrangement, right? See your role in life as God put me here, right? And so be practical, be functional, do what you need to do in your role. Do it as if I've placed you there. Do it for my pleasure, but do it with this fundamental thought wave kind of always there, equipoised. Treat people equally. Don't be disturbed by happiness and distress. That's it's the combination of both. That's really the art, of how we practice in this world. All right. 14.
All right. 14 was 13, 14. Okay. To give protection to the general mass of people who are citizens of the state is prescribed dharma for a king. You got to give protection. By acting in that way, the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens.
Okay.
But this is very interesting math here. Dharmic math, karmic dharmic math.
Why 6th?
1/6. But a king, I'm sure the other 5 slices of the pie are very interesting too. Who shares them? But a king or executive head of state who simply collects taxes from the citizens, but does not give them proper protection as human beings, has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens. And in exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. It all evens out, doesn't it?
It's about leadership here, right? Here it's saying the king, but other places in Bhagavatam it's going to say don't become a leader of any sort, right? Don't even become a parent, right?
Right.
Don't become like a political leader. What does that verse say? Don't
be a parent. Don't be a.
All like that,
Don't be a parent.
I just don't.
That's the takeaway today.
But it's saying
don't be a parent. Don't be a leader. If you can't, don't be whatever join the PTA, whatever it is.
Yeah, you're right.
If you can't deliver your dependence.
So that's the focus, right? A very interesting idea. You think it's just you just took the first part. Don't become a parent. But so here it's saying the idea is that any leadership position you take, it's not being seen as like a power grab, right? It's not being seen as like a source of material enjoyment, fame, prestige, reputation, power, but it's actually responsibility. And it's a grave responsibility because here it's being said, imagine being a king. Imagine if you had to accept anyone else's karma. Like, in other words, if someone else is misbehaving, I got to bear the brunt of the reactions for that. That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
What this does is it puts the leader in the position of saying, like, I need to act in such a way. I need to be really conscious of this. I can't just exploit here. I need to act in such a way where the best qualities of my dependents are being nurtured or being cultured or being increased, fostered by my decision making, by how I personally deal with people and so on. And if you don't do that, you're going to get all this negative karma, right? Like, it's a ton of it. I mean, it's so much.
You're taking on everybody's karma.
Yeah, in what sense?
Think about it. When a leader goes and sends a bunch of troops to fight for corporate interests, guess what? He might do well if he's invested in Halliburton or etc. But there's some massive karma you got to take. The blood is on their hands.
Well, I tell you something. It's the big news in the States right now, right? And we're just speaking of blood on the hands, but there's absolutely a horrible mass murder. I don't know if you're even aware, Raghunath. Did you hear about that? Yesterday. No, I didn't. Gunman entered a school, killed 14 kids, 13 or 14 kids, something like that. Right, and it happens. A
kid or an adult?
I think it was like a teenager. Actually, I think he was 18 years old. I'm not sure. I haven't actually looked too much into it, but
this is why we got to push the Bhakti kids on the.
Well, this is my point is that our leaders, imagine if they thought that all the crime that's being committed in my in my domain, right, that I have to personally have to bear the karma for it, right? Then how does that, then that you like you just said, we may be influenced by Halliburton, we may be influenced by this, but what if what if all the pain that's caused by our decision, it seems like our leaders can be very callous to the pain that they cause, and they don't get, and if they understood that I'm responsible for whatever is happening, then you would have to start to think of like, we need to address, the ethically, morally where we're at. I'm not even saying like necessarily push religion on people, but I'm saying it's like, are we as a group, are we thinking about what it takes to become better people? We're thinking about the pursuit of happiness, right? We have a constitution that's saying, hey, everybody should be free to pursue happiness, but we're pursuing it in all these kind of crazy directions, and we're getting so warped.
Right.
So maybe we should say life isn't just about pursuing material happiness. Life is actually about developing character, whether you're religious or not. What are we doing to engage in that? What conversations are we having? What kind of training are we getting in our schools? To become better people. And it seems like if you don't, if this was impressed on the leaders, you're responsible, and actually you're going to pay.
And you're going to pay.
And you're going to pay. And that's what this whole Varnashrama, when we look at a book like Bhagavatam, it's in many ways, you can be triggered by it left and right. And it can seem like this is some antiquated book about some culture that may or may not have even existed. That has all of these kind of cultural
references and nuances and rituals,
and kind of rigid social ideas and so on that are totally impractical, and who wants them now? I don't want to be categorized in a particular way. I want to be free to pursue happiness in any way that I want. But if you can dig just a little bit deeper than the surface, you can see there's tons of wisdom here, and so it's saying like
relevant, practical, applicable.
Yeah, and just the idea that there have to be advisors that are going to advise the leaders, and these advisors they have to be uncorruptible, right? So
I think we have advisors. I think our leaders have advisors, but they're corruptible. Also, they're all it's an echo chamber. They're all bed together.
Yeah. Whereas these advisors, part of their uncorruptibility is that nobody's paying them. They get no paycheck. They live very simply.
They're getting no paycheck. Exactly.
They're very sense controlled, right? They're not. They're how they live is very much. You can see austere.
Right.
Because they find their happiness in wisdom.
When we hear that advisors, I'm sorry. When we hear advisors of the the president, etc. When we hear that they're on these massive payrolls, it makes us question their integrity.
Yeah.
So that's why the idea of the brahmanas, they're the leaders, but they have nothing. And therefore we have some faith in what they say because it can't be purchased.
Right.
And let's move on with this.
So we're all handcuffed. It's like you watching the United States right now. It's almost like it would be interesting, It's in one sense it's very sad that we can't get together and help like protect our own children, right? We're so dug in to our different ideas, to our polarities. We're so corrupted by corporations. Our leaders are so spineless in different ways that we can't even figure out a way, to not live in a world where regularly people are picking up guns and walking in and just committing mass murders. What to speak of our children, So a lot.
Now that I'm thoroughly depressed.
Well, my point is that we tend to it's kind of like I think it's deeply ingrained in us. It's almost like institutionalized in us that our form of government is the best way, and so but just watch it, examine it, see where we're at, take a good look in the mirror, and think, hey, maybe we do need to draw on wisdom from whatever different cultures, right? In other words, let's try to get some shared values here, that just madly chasing after material happiness isn't the goal of life. That there's got to be something deeper. What is it that we're trying to pursue here?
On a side squirrel, there's 108 people on Zoom right now.
All right. You know, this
No
is
one leave, no one leave, and no one join.
okay. But this is why don't we hear the commentary to this, Raghunath, to this verse?
Okay, the
It's
14th.
a long one, but there's a lot of good stuff in it, I think.
The question may be raised here that if everyone engaged in spiritual activities to attain salvation and became indifferent to the activities of the material world, then how could things as they are go on? Like,
So
who would do all the work in the world if everybody was a spiritualist?
if everything went
Yeah.
to the fundamental level, what would happen on the functional level?
Yes, this is a famous purport. And if things are to go on as they ought to, how can a head of state be indifferent to such activities? In answer to this question, the word shreya, or auspicious, is used here. The division of activities in society, as arranged by the personality of Godhead, was not blindly or accidentally created, as foolish people say. Which is referenced there? Which Prabhupada trying to reference?
I'm sorry?
What's Prabhupada trying to reference?
People saying that it's foolish? Or you're saying a verse from the Gita?
Yeah, he's saying the division of activities.
Chaturvarnyam maya shristam guna karma vibhagasha.
Maybe somebody was, at that time, historically, was criticizing Varnashram. I don't know. Anyway, the Brahmana must do his duty properly, and the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the Sudra must do the same. And every one of them can achieve the highest perfection of life. We live in this world, Kaustubha, where it's like the goal of life is economic development. The goal of life is not liberation.
Right.
And so if I can just get ahead, if I can work the system so I can get, the latest gadgets, then I'll be successful. And that's what a win is. And in this culture, you can see that actually the win is peace of mind through liberation, through liberation from the material world. And you see that. You see very peaceful, as we've been through villages and cities in India, and we've met so many people. You meet people who are very, very simple, but it's like as if they're liberated from the material world. And then you meet people who are incredibly sophisticated, who could run huge factories and companies, and they're actually as if liberated as well. It's got nothing to do with our economic status. That's just another part of our existence. It's got to do with where our head's at, where our heart's at. I like this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And every one of them can achieve the highest perfection of life, liberation from material bondage. That's the home run. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1845. I'm going to skip the Sanskrit because I have Abhideya looking over my shoulder. He's like, say it, Raghu, say it. Screw the whole thing up.
You could do this one. It's
I'll
not so
never
hard.
quote a verse again, Abhideya. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can attain the highest perfection. That's 1845.
Okay.
Lord Vishnu advised Maharaj Prishtu that a king is not enjoined to give up his kingdom and the responsibility of protecting the prajas, or citizens, to instead go away to the Himalayas for liberation. Did I read that wrong?
Okay. In other words, he's saying the king is not meant to give up his kingdom and walk away and not protect his people.
Okay, that's a good point. He can go to vacations to go over downhill, but he has to come back to do his duties. Right?
But he can attain liberation while executing his royal duties. It's not that liberation demands that he leave the world behind.
Sure. Matter of fact, going on that vacation is to remind himself of his fundamental self so he can get back and do his work properly.
There you go.
Boom.
All right. The royal duty.
The royal duty. The royal duty, or the duty of the head of state, is to see that the prajas, or the general mass of people, are doing their respective duties for spiritual salvation. A secular state does not necessitate a king or head of state who is indifferent to the activities of prajas. In the modern state, the government has many rules and regulations for conducting the duties of prajas. But the government neglects to see the citizens advance in spiritual knowledge. If the government is careless in this matter, the citizens will act whimsically, without any sense of God realization or spiritual life, and thus become entangled in sinful activities.
And I think Prabhupada's even being a little careful here in his language, where he says, like, without any sense of God realization or spiritual life. And in one sense, it's not asking everyone to join a religion, right? It's not saying like everyone needs some kind of forced, religious state or something like that. But when you talk about spiritual life it means there have to be certain principles that we understand.
There's
The
gotta be
sacredness of all life, right?
There's got to be some
Yeah.
values. You can't
Yeah.
just say it's all nothing, whatever, because that's going to affect everybody around you.
Even like for instance, even like the idea, all men are created equal, like the constitutional idea, right? All men are created equal. That is a spiritual idea, right?
I mean, we are based on a spiritual culture. We may not have done it right, and there's been a lot of autocorrects or correct putting us back on track, but the principles itself, are
that's
quite
a spiritual
spiritual.
principle. Yeah,
Sure. And if you want to throw that out, you're inviting a lot of chaos. There has to be some values there, or it's just gonna be chaos. You throw a lot of pebbles in a pond, and the ripples will just start hitting itself because they all have a different center. Not saying what spiritual path you have to be on, but there's got to be there's got to be some set of shared values that we have: respect for all life, treating each other, treating all living beings with a type of dignity. This is how we're just going to have peace in society.
I think we're out of time, Raghu.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, alrighty.
Sorry about that. We're just talking about.
That's good.
peace
No,
for the
that's
entire
good. When
society.
you're feeling like it's going fast, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. We'll pick it up. Why don't we pick up with this commentary tomorrow?
Let's pick this one up tomorrow. Mara, where are we at? What's going on? Give me some Amrita. Probably pronounced that wrong. Did I pronounce that wrong, Abhidaya?
Amrita.
Amrita. Ha.
I got some good nectar nuggets for you to take with you.
Okay.
Okay. It's never too late to learn Sanskrit or plant a fruit tree.
Yeah.
Steward your children towards Krishna.
Treat your children well. The parents know. Who's that? Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
Spiritual life saves us from the washing machine of Maya.
You like that washing machine analogy? Did you like that? I played with that
works.
for a while, but
It's a little tricky because it also kind of blends with other metaphors that we use about like bathing and cleaning and so on. Too.
All right, I'm gonna
maybe another machine.
All right, give me some other.
Just in the dryer, maybe.
The dryer might be banging you around, getting hit by a shoe. I like the idea of the pants leg wrapped around your neck, though.
Yeah, I get that. Well, that could happen in a dryer too.
Okay.
Study like you'll live forever. Do sadhana like you'll die tomorrow.
I like that one. I'm gonna tattoo that one right across my breast.
Your breast. Okay. Good to know.
My breasts.
We managed to get relatively
Mostly
far
fairly.
today. Yeah. Keep reading them, Mara. Just
All right.
keep reading them.
Sadhana is about remembering the fundamental self.
Yeah.
Fundamental self. Yeah.
Fundamental self.
Go into the functions of the day in a foundational way.
Okay.
See your role in life.
That was a Scooby Doo.
See your role in life as God's arrangement.
What?
Yes.
What was
your
that?
role in life is
Your
God's
role in
arrangement. In
life,
other words, I've been placed here. It's
Okay. All right. I
have
get
a
that.
duty to do. Yeah.
A change in consciousness will change the world.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Boring, but yes.
Oh God, that was a T-shirt right there, Raghunath.
Yes.
And no-
Okay.
No more degraded vacations.
That.
For Mara. That's my T-shirt. Oh, everybody! I want to thank Abhidaya Devi and Bhakti
Thank
Kids
you.
Sangha. Make sure you check that out today. Follow them on YouTube right now, and follow them on Instagram, and check out them on Facebook. Follow them all around. Stalk Bhakti Kids Sangha
I'll
on
put
a regular
the links
basis.
in the show notes today.
Okay, links in the show notes. That's good. And want to thank her for joining. I want to thank her for all her work and giving some inspiration to all of us. And thanks to the benefit of the information age. See, the information age has some ups. People can listen to that all over the world. So thanks, Abhidaya. It was a pleasure to meet you. One of the many others out there doing wonderful things and now inspiring me. And now I'm going to get serious about Sanskrit. Thanks for everybody. We had over 108 today. We had 109 at one point. And I was doing a little puja to make the last person drop off to get it back to 108. And sure enough, it went to 108. Oh, the cement mixer. That could be the good analogy, Kaustubha. The cement mixer. Just stirring you around.
Messy.
Muddy, messy, muddy, sticky.